reason we have Carol Leifer on, she's talented. She's written on so many shows. She's written more Oscar shows, I think, than anybody.
She has an Emmy.
She
has an Emmy.
Right?
No, not anybody. Probably the most.
So Bruce
of the
Valanche.
But I'm here to promote my book.
And you're here to promote
we're
the
going
book.
to talk.
Yes.
Really, no,
we're
really.
going to talk book.
Okay.
By the way, unusually long title. How to write a funny speech, ... for a wedding, bar mitzvah, graduation, and every other event you didn't want to go to in the first place.
And it's got,
right.
it's got tips and a template in there, right?
Yes.
So you can write speeches.
Oh, really?
which
Is it like a Mad Lib? I can use one page and
That's
just fill
one
in
section
names
of it,
and,
yes.
Oh, I'm going to love
Yes,
this.
like Mad Libs.
I know
Well, you know-
Carol Leifer because I got to spend lovely time with her
Yes.
on our show together when I was learning all about comedy and television, and you were just
75
you were
episodes
fan-
together.
Oh my
Wow.
God! Come on.
I know.
That was. I have to say, I don't know anybody else's experience. I had a great time while we were doing the show.
Oh,
I did.
absolutely.
I was always grateful and
Did anybody
proud of
not
the
have a
show.
great time?
I don't know. I don't know.
Have you checked
They
with
don't come to me.
everybody?
But I have grown more fond of it in distance. You know, I guess because when you're doing, once it hit, you kind of went, oh yeah, I'm on a big TV show. Oh,
Yeah.
What's next? What's next?
Right. Uh-huh.
And in retrospect, you look back and go, what's next? Most people don't get that. You know, for God's sake.
Exactly.
Can't you just sit and go with? I always say, you know, any project is an arranged marriage. You don't know who you're getting in bed with. You don't know anything. And loved the people, loved the material,
Yes.
loved the characters.
Yeah.
It was the whole thing was really a blessing. And though I was aware of it, I think I'm, you know, exponentially more aware of it.
You know, the thing
hindsight.
I always say about the show is you guys individually, I mean, amazing. But put together,
Yeah.
it was like lightning in a bottle.
Yeah.
And it just all worked. And in talking about what a great place to work it was, I mean, also, don't you think the tone that Larry, David, and Jerry Seinfeld set, it kind of, you know, the fish stinks from the top down. Like when it's good guys at the top, you know, the love that they spread,
Yeah.
the crew, everybody
Yeah.
loved everybody.
And also the you know, well, Jerry talks about this about writing stand-up, and I'm sure you can speak to this as well. It's how much do you care?
Mm-hmm.
How much are you going to put into it?
Yeah.
And I remember, I mean, Jerry told a great story recently about when they came up with the ending for the marine biologist, and he talks about it in praise of me learning the monologue quickly,
Yeah.
which was, you know, that's just a card trick. But what I tell the story about is they had an ending that we were all very excited about during the week.
Oh,
and then we
really?
got it in front of the audience, and it didn't quite get the reaction
Do you
everybody
remember what it
wanted.
was?
I don't.
Oh,
I wasn't, because I
wow.
wasn't in it. My storyline stopped when I walked out into the ocean.
That's so funny.
But I think it was a coffee shop scene.
Uh-huh.
And I don't remember what storyline we were tying up, but it wasn't mine.
Yeah.
And they did the scene in front of the audience, and it got a fine reaction, but they just went, nah, not gonna. And I remember you guys all circled the wagons, the circle of wagons of writers, and 15 minutes later, Larry comes over and goes, how fast can you learn a monologue? But I always go, to have that idea in their back pocket,
Yes.
work it out while the audience is sitting there, and not. We were a hit show by this point. They could have let it go. They couldn't let it go.
No.
So
It
on
had
that
to be-
note, because I'm thinking back in prepping, there was a scene with the ugly people in the restaurant.
Yes. In
And
Curb.
they needed a line. Curb. And
Yes.
Larry needed a line, and your line was?
Right. He needed a line when he saw the ugly people
Right.
as he was walking through. So I gave him, oh, what happened here?
But that's that kind of thing where you it's there's that embedded in my brain. It's, right? But that's the writing. That's when people say, "What do
See, but
comedy
not only
writers?"
is it the writing, but and again another compliment for Carol. It's writing for the guy you're writing for. I mean,
Yes.
in and of itself, it's a smart line, but it's not necessarily a home run. It's a home run on Larry David. You know?
Right.
I mean, that jumped out at me
Thank you.
because I remember writing for shows. I wrote for a lot of sitcoms that were, but your experience on Curb and also with Seinfeld was pitching big idea. It was a big idea show rather
Yes.
than a whole story with A, B, whatever. Did you have to pitch A, B, C, and D stories for each of them, how they intersected, or did you just go in and say nail salon? She can't understand what they're saying,
Yeah.
so she hires somebody to interpret.
Well, it was an interesting process at Seinfeld on NBC, by the way. Unlike a lot of other shows where there's a group writing room, it was one-on-one. You'd have an idea. You'd go in with a few ideas because time with Larry and Jerry in their office that they shared was rare. So you would go in and you'd sit on the couch and they would sit at their desk and you would pitch the idea. But knowing, and a bunch of the ideas, you always knew when Larry didn't like it because it'd be like the look on his face and he'd move his shoulder and it'd be like, I don't know. You could see that on another show. That was like the worst put down.
That was the thing.
But I remember it like it was yesterday when I pitched George brings a deaf woman to a party with him to find out why his girlfriend broke up with him. Larry would shoot up from his chair. Yeah, we're doing that. Yeah, we're doing that. So you started to get an idea of what kind of things they were going to respond to and what things.
And once he said you were doing that, then you got sent off and they said go do a draft.
Well, that was your story.
Yeah.
And then it was Jerry. Remember, it was all about the lineswoman, Marlee Matlin.
Marlee, yeah.
So then that became Jerry's story with her, with Marlee Matlin,
Right.
with the lip reading and mistaking sweep. I need to sweep up with sleep with somebody.
Right.
So that became that story. Elaine's story. Oh, that was with another, they always love personal ideas. So before I joined the show, I was a comic full time. And, I'd have these flights at like 5 a.m. and a car service guy would pick me up and he'd be like Chatty Cathy at 5 a.m., like on. And sometimes I wished like I could tell them I was deaf so they would shut the fuck up. So I pitched that story for Elaine that she pretends that she's deaf because she doesn't want to talk to the car service guy. And then the story for Kramer, Jason, as you know, the stories we could come up with for Michael Richards were always, well, if we have a tennis setting, well, Kramer should be a ball man at the U.S. Open. He was easy to come up with ideas for because he was so physical, and it was like you knew that would be a home run.
Right.
So you had to go back to your office, figure out the other 3 stories, go back to them and say, what do you think of these other stories? And then go and write your draft. And then the beauty of Seinfeld was, normally writers, we hate being rewritten and, get surly about it. You'd wait outside the door to see what their draft was because as a writer, I love to see what they kept of my draft and then what they changed or added and I learned so much from that because the draft would always be that much better, elevated to another degree. So it was really a great education for me in, learning, I think, from the masters.
So lip reader, I'm on KBC radio.
Yes.
It's the OJ trials happening.
That's
and
right.
this was I was much edgier back then, and I go, I want to know what they're talking about, Kardashian, because there's a lot of that going on.
Right.
Called Marlee Matlin, she wouldn't do it, but we got a lip reader in, and I bring her in, and she's starting to tell me what she thinks they're whispering to each other, and the phone rings. And my producer goes, pick it up. I go, I can't. No, pick it up. Judge Ito.
Oh my God.
They're going to send somebody over to
Wow.
take me out immediately and arrest me if I continue doing the lip reading thing because it's an attorney-client privilege.
Right.
And I'm going, what's she saying now? What's she doing now? And now the station manager comes in because they've called him
Yeah.
to say we're going to sue you. They're going to sue everybody.
I never
So
would have
that
thought
put
in
an
a million
end to.
years.
I was dying to know.
Would have been a great Jackie Childs story.
Yes.
what was going on in there. So
see,
the lip reader
right.
episode resonated with me.
Resonated in
a big way.
scary
Can you do
way.
one thing that's an aside here? And by the way, I'm still laughing at what happened here. Your dad, you said, was a huge influence on you.
He was.
Could you do me a favor? Because
Yeah.
Jason maybe never heard it, and our audience maybe never heard it.
Okay.
Could you tell the chicken joke?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay. So a guy goes to the window of a movie theater with a chicken on his shoulder and asks for 2 tickets. Ticket lady says, "We don't allow animals in the movie theater." So the guy goes around the block, stuffs the chicken down his pants, goes back to the ticket window, buys himself a ticket, and goes into the movie theater. Now, once the movie starts, the chicken starts to get a little hot. Naturally. So the guy unzips his pants so the chicken can stick his head out and get a little air. Now the woman sitting next to the guy sees this and is understandably appalled. She nudges her girlfriend. She goes, "This guy next to me just unzipped his pants." The woman next to her says, "Look, don't worry about it. You've seen one, you've seen them all." And the woman goes, "I know, but this one's eating my popcorn." Ta-da!
Oh my God! Now I see why you love your father. Why your father influenced you.
Yeah.
He did.
To go. Oh my God! Again, you were one of the funniest people I know, and it's hard to do what you do. The Oscars are a hard thing because it's you got to figure out, especially this year with Conan and the politics is going on, and you're walking a tightrope.
Yeah.
And you have to know his personality. You have to know culturally what's going on. You have to know what's going to resonate with a big audience.
Yeah.
And then you're watching the whole show to see what moments are happening that you can then mention, right?
Well, here's the thing. When I write on the Oscars, sometimes I'm on the host team and sometimes on the show team where you write for the presenters. So Conan brought in, I think it's mostly, if not all, the writers from his show that he has a comfort with and ease with. And I was on the show team, so we write, the team writes for the presenters. But what I think was masterful about Conan was not only were the jokes, brilliant, but in the moment, he was amazing. And having, this stable of incredible comedy writers there was perfect. And the story that I'm telling about the Oscars a lot is, I know Conan, and so before the show, I went up to wish him good luck. And he said, he looked great, relaxed. And he said, "You know what? I'm just going to go out and have fun." And, God damn it, that's what he did.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, because I've seen the look of fear of other hosts before they go out, and that's what it's all about. Go out and have fun. And he sure did.
Jerry Seinfeld did a benefit for us. Jason had asked him, and he did a wonderful benefit. And it was him as Ray Romano. Jason did some stand-up. And Jerry, and you would know this, Jerry's about to go out on stage. And I go, "Are you nervous?" And he looked at me like I had a third eye. He went like, "You're an idiot." Like, why would I be nervous? He couldn't wait to go. There was like zero nerves.
Yeah.
He just can't. It's like, this is what I do. There's no nerves to this.
I think he's the exception to that because, and we talk about it in my speech book, which I know we'll get to, but I get anxious. I get nervous before I perform always. And that, people, I'm not afraid of my nervousness because, as you know, Jason, also as a performer, it gives you a certain amount of energy that's good to bring out on stage with you. So, Jerry is his own performer and person in many ways. And yeah, he sure does look forward to it. But I think what people don't necessarily realize about him is he might not be nervous because he works so hard on his act all day writing that he goes out there prepared. He's not just winging it. And I think that gives him probably a sense of calm when he goes out.
And he's got, 40 years of backup acting.
Yeah, but even
Yes.
back then, I think he was confident, doing what he was doing.
Oh, yeah.
Because
When I first started at the comic strip, he was the MC. I was the open mic nighter that I went to with Paul Reiser. But he was already a star at the comic strip. He'd only been doing it a year, but he was like the big man on campus. So even when I met him as someone just starting out in the business, he was already a big macher, as our people say.
Yes, as we say.
Yes.
All right, watch this segment. So you've written this book, which I'm going to hold up, How to Write a Funny Speech for a Wedding, Bar Mitzvah, Graduation, and Every Other event you didn't want to go to in the first place. And I want to ask you about writing this book.
Okay.
And why you thought to write this book. But before I do that,
Yes.
writing. So I do remember you because I'm old enough. I remember when you started making the scene, especially on television, as a stand-up comic.
Yes, yes.
And now of course stand-up comedy is writing, but to me, stand-up comedians want to be performers. I think most stand-up comics that I know think of themselves primarily as performers. They
Who
just happen
need
to write
a
for
lot of
themselves.
attention.
Right.
Yes.
But arguably,
Mm-hmm.
I think at this point, the bigger part of your professional life has been as a writer.
Yes.
Did you know that was where you were heading? Were you happy that's where it went to? Did it shock you, or did you go, no, I knew this was part of the plan?
Well, I'll take you back to a story about my dad, who was a big influence on me in wanting to go into stand-up. I was doing stand-up, and then there was a audition for Saturday Night Live for new performers at the comic strip.
Mm-hmm.
And I went on, I had a good set, and Al Franken was there as a producer and the head writer, Jim Downey. And when I came off stage, they said, we really enjoyed you. Would you like to be a writer on the show? So, of course, I was so excited at the possibility, and I went back to my dad, and I said, they've offered me a writing job, but I love to perform, and I want to be a stand-up. And my dad was like, you know what, Carol, in any career, you got to diversify. So if I were you, I would take, no questions asked, jump at this writing job. And I did. I followed his advice, and I did see that, I do like this writing too. And what's been great about it over the years is stand-up is amazing. I still do it. I was just performing this weekend at Wolf Trap. I mean, I love it. But the great thing about writing is stand-up is a lonely profession. You're traveling by yourself without an agent and a manager. You're in the podunk this, you're in this town. And once I was in a writer's room with other writers, I loved it. I felt like I'm home. I'm with every funniest person that I've ever known. And how great is this? And also, it's a profession where you don't have to travel. And especially now, being married, having a kid, that was the saving grace to me.
Right.
But SNL was tough for you because Frank, from what I understand, Frank brought you in. But Lorne Michaels never gave his blessing. It was not, he never accepted you, or he did?
He did give his blessing. I love this story because, people are like, oh, you wrote for SNL. So you have your meeting with Lorne to make it official. So I got dressed up and I thought, I'll be in there for an hour and I have every answer ready. It was literally, the meeting was, they were still auditioning performers for the season. He walks outside the door. He says, Al and Jim tell me that you're really good. You do know that the show, you're going to have to stay late many nights. Tuesday nights, most writers stay over. I was like, yeah, no, that's fine. He went, okay. And I was hired. So that my meeting was about a minute. But when I got there, Lauren had a bit of a club. Like a lot of people who run a show, the people that they gravitate to. And I wasn't part of the club. So I always felt kind of on the outs that way. But as a young writer or a young person, my inexperience, as I've learned over the years, I kind of accepted it and kind of flew under his radar. Now, doing this for 40 years, I would have done it differently. If someone doesn't take to you right away, I would have tried harder for him to like me, engaged him more, made more of a college try to work it out instead of I'll sidestep him because that's what you need to do at a job. Your boss needs to like you a lot. Jim Downey and Al Franken were, second level, and they liked me great, but
the boss has to like you.
Yeah, he has a thing, plaque on his desk. The captain's word is law. And it sure has served him well over the years, but he's the big number one.
So on Saturday Night Live, who did I see? The special, which is done 50 years and whatever. And one of the writers said, that you go in and you just make sure you put two things together because you can't create the volume that you have to come up with ideas. So he goes, a submarine latke maker. You're throwing shit out and they go do it and you go, I have no idea what that is and I got to go back. Is that accurate?
Yes, because the way the show works is Monday, the host comes in, you all go to Lauren's office. The host is sitting in kind of a chair of prominence. And then, talk about pressure, they go around the room in Lauren's office. What are you thinking about? What kind of sketch are you thinking of doing this week? And a lot of times you make something up because, nobody's going to remember it never happened, but you got to be prepared with something. You hosted the show?
I hosted one time.
Wow, when?
I can't remember the year. I can tell you who was there.
Okay.
It was Mike Meyer, Rob Schneider, Sandler. I can't remember who the women were. Chris Rock was there.
Was it maybe Jan Hooks?
No, I wouldn't remember Jan. I think
Nora
it wasn't
Dunn?
Mary Gross. It wasn't Nora Dunn. I can't remember who the girls were.
Well, you were there with some good people.
I had very little to do. But I remember I was so on my heels that whole week because of exactly that. I come in. These are the writers of SNL, and they're going, what do you think about a thing? And I'm going, it sounds fun. Is there can I read it? I don't have it yet.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That could be funny. Anything could be funny.
Yeah.
My memory was Tuesday went by. I think I did photographs on Tuesday. That was the big contribution.
Although, wait a minute. Let me backtrack.
Yeah.
Monday night, did Lauren take you out to dinner?
No, I didn't get a dinner.
Oh,
Never
okay.
got a dinner.
Red buttons.
And I'll tell you, it didn't end well with me and Lauren either. I think, probably. Tuesday, nothing happened. Wednesday, around 5 o'clock, a stack of like 100 sketches shows up. Some of them have been on the stack for seasons already. Because I remember there was one about the adventures, takeoff on Dobie Gillis. It was called The Adventures of Puby Gillis, about his pubic hair showed out of the top of his pants. And the minute they went, oh my God, Puby Gillis is back.
Right.
And you read every one of these scripts. And then Lauren took me into his office and said, so what do you like? And I went, I don't.
Can I remember
I thought the mafia thing was funny.
Yeah.
All right, what else? I went, I thought the Masterpiece Theater thing was funny. Okay, and I went, are you just asking my opinion or am I picking the show? I didn't know what was, because everything I said, we wound up, the ones that I said, we wound up at least going to rehearsal with.
Right.
Thursday, there's a bunch of sets, but two. There's 12 sketches, but there's 2 sets. They go, we'll rehearse those 2, and then I said, well, we could rehearse all of them. I mean, we don't have to have a set. It's just a chair or, And Lauren said, you're from the theater. You know how to do this. And I went, we rehearse in the theater. We rehearse a lot. We spend a lot of time rehearsing. And his line to me to calm me down was, I promise by the time we go to air, you'll have done everything at least twice. It did not calm me down. Friday, the other sets were there. We rehearsed everything once, and then I remember there was some makeup stuff. And Saturday, the next thing I know, we're in dress, and then things changed after dress. Anyway, the reason why I think I may have blown it with Lauren is we go to the after party, and he says, so did you have a good time? I said, I did, but can I just say, I think you're making this harder than it has to be. And that was goodbye. Good night, nurse. That was the end of my time at SNL.
Check, please.
Yeah. I was trying to be helpful because I just thought, if you have an actor that is at least from a comedy or a theater background, you don't have to wait till Friday to rehearse. We might find something funny if we rehearse it once.
Well, the system is the system that's been going on for years.
50 years.
Yeah. And also, I think for actors, it is, you got to be prepared for that week. Grueling.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
What I don't understand is when a lot of skits are great and you're creating volume skits, but what I don't understand is guy who smells like Parmesan chicken guy, and it's like, what are you doing? How does those kind of things happen?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is really weird.
I always kind of get a little upset when SNL doesn't get the Emmy because, as opposed to one show, one special. Because week after week,
you have to do all
the volume of it. I mean, there's going to be some clunkers, and they'll cop to that. But look at how much they produce.
Oh, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's totally insane. It's skid if it's good.
So that sounds like the craziest grind in the world. I know the Seinfeld grind. I'm going to come back to the book in 1 second, but I don't mean to be stupid because God knows I've done Curb. But when you write for Curb,
Yeah.
what are you writing? Is it coming up with the story arcs?
Yes.
And because I mean, I remember my Curb script when I first did before the Seinfeld arc.
Right.
It was about 9 pages of, and then this kind of happens, and this kind of happens, and this kind of happens.
Right.
So what is that?
It's
process?
a very different process there. But again, you go in at the start of the season and you pitch ideas to Larry David and Jeff Schaefer,
Right.
who we both know as a former writer of Seinfeld. And the same thing, I would go in with a lot of stuff. So certain ideas, like the first idea I pitched for Curb was when a comedian is out with regular people and the comedian says something funny and the regular person says, "Ba-dum-bum." This is so infuriating to anybody funny. You want to strangle that person. Strangle them.
Uh-huh.
So I knew the first one in, I was so happy. Larry loved it. You know, we got to use that somewhere. So it became something when I think they go to sell a show to Hulu and they're bantering with the receptionist and they say something funny. She goes, "Oh, ba-dum-bum." So there are little things like that. Also, a thing that I pitched was, I hate when you go to a meeting, usually in show business, and you pitch an idea and the executive says, "You know, I don't love it." You know, do they say, "I don't like it"? No. You know, so you didn't like it. You know, it's always taking things the next step. But, you know, "I don't love it" became something that Larry really responded to. So there are always things like that. But then the bigger ideas. Oh God, there's so many show business related ones. I told them how I had just been at a meeting at NBC, and they have the fruit bowl in the middle of the table. And of course, the thought becomes what you do, what is acted out on Curb. And I said to Larry and Jeff, I always thought, if I picked up an apple from that fruit bowl and I started eating it, how fucking weird would that be? And then when I'm done, throwing it in the office trash can. And that became artificial fruit, that episode.
Right.
So you pitch the ideas, you know, other things like, it's always self-serving, you know, ideas from Seinfeld, you know, things that are shameless things you do for selfish purposes. I had an Audi. I took it to the dealership in Van Nuys, and I would go, and they had a nice spread there, you know, nice coffee machine, and they had those little bundt cakes from Nothing Bundt Cakes. And, you know, I'd have one of these bundt cakes. And it was like, this is delicious. So every time I was in the valley and I passed the Audi, I'd bring the car in and be like, I hear a little ping. There's something, a ping. Then I'd go, I'd have my coffee, I'd have the Nothing Bundt Cake. And then we used that in Curb, but Larry changed it to licorice. The car dealer has great licorice. So you'd pitch the ideas. He would tell you the ones he liked, the bigger idea or the funny things to say.
Yeah.
And then he and Jeff would go off and come up with an outline, usually about 10 pages, pretty much of what happens in every scene.
Yeah.
And a line here and there, but also there's a masterclass in improv with these actors that they can just take this stuff and go with it. And then when he would bring the writers in was when we would shoot it. So you were there for the entire shoot. You'd be on set, like with the I need a line when I come out.
So
come
everybody's
through
hanging there waiting to see what's not working that they can pick.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's being, you know, because as you know, Jason, the action happens on set and some things go off where you don't think they're going to go off. And how many things hit that you don't even expect to hit?
Yeah.
So it's a very different process than other shows that way.
A lot of pressure. Because you're doing it in real time. It's like, we got a couple minutes here. Finish the scene. I need a funnier line.
Yeah.
Somebody.
Well, he had a good stable.
I needed your book because there was. I will say before I ask you more about this, the greatest joy for me on Curb is all the years on Seinfeld. I guess because Larry was, writing a lot of it. I could make Larry laugh, but not howl. I mean, he enjoyed what I was doing. He knew what it was going to be. He was writing for me at that point. We got to Curb, and the first episode that I did of Curb outside of the arc was he and I were going to work on a pilot together. He was going to create a pilot for me. Let's take a meeting, but he lives in the Palisades and my office is in Studio City. So we toss a coin. He's going to come to me first for the first meeting, and then I'll go to him for the second meeting. And the whole episode is about everything happens to him. He gets a flat tire, and he shows up to my office 4 hours late to say, well, clearly I can't have the meeting.
Yeah, right.
So on the next one, you come to me in the Palisades. And I go, but we didn't have the meeting. He said, but I'm here. I came. I said, you came 4 hours late to a meeting we didn't have to tell me we can't have a meeting. Let's stick with the plan. Come here. We'll have a meeting. And well, he could not get through a scene with me.
Real, yeah.
And he said, I've never been confronted with myself before. And it was such a joy to make him break like that. It was so
Isn't
heavenly.
it? He breaks in a lot of scenes.
Bob Einstein would make him break a lot, yes.
Bob Einstein made everybody
Oh, my
break.
gosh.
So now I am here to tell you, I have not read this book yet. So tell me the derivation. How did this come to be?
Okay.
And
that's easy.
Yeah, and if I buy it, and I won't because you're giving me this one. What's here? What am I looking at?
Okay, so what happened was Rick Mitchell, who I co-wrote this with, who's a comedy writer, he worked for 6 years on Ellen DeGeneres' talk show. Emmy winning, I might add, too.
Sure, everybody but me.
You got a daytime Emmy.
Daytime Emmy, that's right.
We got together during the strike, met for lunch. I had just been to a wedding, saw a horrible speech by the father of the bride. He had been to an event where someone, stank up the joint with his speech. And we were sitting there going, a lot of people don't know not only 101 about speech making, but making it funny and having a good speech is really not that difficult. And if we could help people, step by step, the beginning of a speech, middle, end, this will be a public service to people because we've all gone to events where someone has given a lousy speech and it's put a damper on everything, or it was also taped. With the advent of taping these things now with your phone, you can't escape it.
Right.
So that was the impetus for the book. And as you can see, it's not the Encyclopedia Britannica. Right. It's small, it's handy. We have templates for if you're really lazy and you want to write a speech. We have like Mad Libs, fill in the blanks. And we have jokes at the end that, if you are stuck on a joke for an event, steal our jokes. That's what they're there for. Go nutty. And it's really, it's #1 now on Amazon in public speaking.
How long has it been out?
Just 2 weeks. Which is
my
crazy.
God.
And Carol Burnett, as you'll notice,
wrote the foreword.
So it's been really going great because I feel like we're filling a void that hasn't been filled.
You also addressed the AI thing. Because everybody now is using ChatGPT now to write speech, and you tried it and said it came out.
No.
Because it can't do humor, it got stuff wrong, right?
Yes. A friend of mine, her daughter was getting married. I don't know her daughter. So I did what I do when I help people write a speech. We got together for, it's a lot of meals for dinner. And I said to her, tell me some stories, funny stories about your daughter, some heartfelt stories, and we'll put something together. It'll be easy. And she talked about how when her daughter was little, she used to collect snails in the garden. And so we thought we'd put that in the speech. And, the punchline is like, yeah, boy, you laugh, but what I saved on Barbies was amazing. So we put all the bullet points that she gave me into AI. The snail story became like, as a daughter, she preferred the company of gastropods as opposed to people. And, you're like, gastropod, I don't even know what that is. And AI did it with every element, made it not funny, and then also added things that weren't true, which the last thing you want to do in a speech
is embellish the lies.
It's like, what? People sitting there like that never happened.
That's a great speech, by the way. Reading the AI speech at an event is wrong. Completely
there you go.
wrong.
That's a great idea.
Right?
Yes. You do your speech and then go, here's what AI.
Here's what AI.
That
So
concocted
curious.
thing came up
Did you
with.
pay? Did the woman? So this is what you do for a living.
Peter, that's a real.
Did she charge? Did she take
Yes,
it? Take
I'm
it.
taking
God bless
it.
you.
Take my joke.
Take my joke, please.
I'm going to take your idea.
Take my joke, please.
Yeah.
Did the woman pay you, or is it just meals? Because this is what you do for a living. That's a curb. That people are reaching out. Oh, Carol will help you. Call it's at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I need a
We
speech for
actually
tomorrow.
did that in the Fred Stoller episode with Banya, right? With I'm going to give you some material and give you a meal,
right.
and then it became just soup.
Right,
Soup
and
is not a meal.
That's right.
There's no.
Yes.
So Al Franken told me when he was in the Senate that all the senators would call him and go, I'm talking to a Rotary Club. You got anything, Al?
Yeah.
And he'd be giving away material left and right.
You do a lot of corporate stuff, right?
I do, yeah.
And what do they think they're getting when they get you, or do they tell you we want something about this? We sell computer parts. So can you write a whole chunk about computer parts?
Well, there are two kinds. They're either they know what my thing is going to be, and I talk about being female, being in the comedy business for almost 50 years, which is kooky. So they know they're going to get my story and how it can relate in the bigger picture to anybody who's in business. And then sometimes they come to me with this quality about Joe, and this guy in accounting does this, blah, blah, blah. And they really eat it up, like you were saying, because it's about them. And it's the funny things about the people they work with. But that's a big point of our book. The personal is the gold in any speech writing, because you have the relationship with this person that nobody else has. Right. So to really capitalize on that, because you're important enough in their life that they've asked you to do a speech. So to really think about those stories and those things about your relationship that'll set you apart from everybody. And we also have a section of, you can make it funny. It's not that hard. And we walk you through step by step of how you can do that.
But so for instance, right now, I'm going to MC a thing for LA Family Housing in next month. And they said, could you do 6 minutes? And I went,
I would relish that.
I'm not a stand-up. I don't have 6 minutes. And they go, well, it's just something funny about building and housing. So I'm sitting down already talking about, but you see, I don't think like. So yesterday I was doing a thing about a lot of building going on in Los Angeles. A lot of building. I don't know what it is. 16 years, LAX. We're going to have a people mover. Disney got rid of the people mover. They only get 60,000 people a day. We're going to, but I'm trying to come up with bits and now with this book. Please say yes, because I need so much help. Would this book give me any insight on how to do what is literally, they're asking me to do almost a stand-up bit out of whole cloth.
Well, I want to go back because what gig was it? I saw you host a Hollywood Bowl. Extravaganza. Where you killed, and it's not just 30 people; it's how many thousands of people.
Sure.
You were amazing.
Well, thank you. By the way, Peter helped me write that. But it's not that I'm an actor. I can play somebody who knows how to tell a joke.
Right.
That's the thing I always talk about with Seinfeld, and I would imagine every good show you've worked on, and I'm sure this is true of Hacks as well. When people talk to me about the success of Seinfeld and they go, "You guys were so great," I went, "Thank you." When someone throws you the ball at the 2-yard line, it doesn't take a genius to fall into the end zone. We had great stuff to work with, and that. So yes, at the Hollywood Bowl, if someone writes me a funny line, I can probably deliver it.
Yeah.
But for the situation I'm in right now, that's what I'm talking about. Where I don't do what you do. I don't sit down to write a comedic monologue.
I don't even,
on a spot specific subject.
Yeah.
Does this help me, or is that a different book?
I think what they're looking for from you is not necessarily a speech, because that's about the heartfelt and honoring somebody in particular. But I know you do other events performing by yourself.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of great, I would mine things from.
Well, I use Peter's model, and honestly, all I need in a 6-minute bit, I need 4 good lines.
Right.
Because I can kerfuffle my way through.
Yes. But I also think, Jason, what I think is important at these gigs, and anywhere I speak, I always talk a little bit about Seinfeld. You have played this iconic character.
Yeah.
And people, I think, really appreciate a story or two, which I know you have, about being George, your time on the show. I would definitely throw that in, because people eat it up. They want to hear it.
Well, I do that, in personal appearance stuff.
Yeah.
I do a whole section of my Q&A show where I show, a montage from the show, and then it's questions, and I know every question's coming. They're not going to find a new one.
Yeah. What's the question you get the most? I'm just interested.
Favorite episode? Mm-hmm. How did you know it was a hit? Who was your inspiration for George? Things like that. What do people say to you the most when you're out on the street?
Is favorite episode Marine Biologist? I would guess.
No. Here's my answer. Truly is I don't literally have a favorite episode. I say I can tell you the 2 that are remarkable to me, where I took note of the show. First one was the Chinese restaurant, because NBC came in and said, "Are you people crazy? What's wrong with you?" And we were not a hit. In fact, we were. I don't even think on the bubble would be right.
Yes.
And Larry and Jerry read the riot act, but the only thing they didn't say, and this was Larry's line when they left. Larry said, "Well, they didn't say we couldn't do it." So they did it anyway. And I remember thinking, I don't know if this thing's going to last, but these guys, they have integrity, man.
Yeah.
They know what they want to do, and they're willing to roll the dice with it. And that was when I was first kind of proud of the show.
Yeah.
The one where I think it turned our fortunes for the whole show was the contest.
Yes.
The contest was the one where, we heard about it coming, and we went, they're not going to be able to do this. How are they going to do this? And then it was so brilliant. And the thing that I always talk about that not only made it brilliant, but even more brilliant, was Elaine was in the contest. Mm-hmm. So not only are we doing masturbation on a national broadcast television show, but we're going, and girls too. And, it was so audacious.
Yes.
And I just... the story is that by the time the West Coast aired the shows, the numbers had tripled from the East Coast.
Wow.
So people were on the phone going, "Oh my God, you got to see this! You got to see this! You got to see this!"
And I knew that when we got away with, in my episode, The Rye, Elaine's boyfriend, who's a saxophonist, his embouchure is ruined from what is implied, and we know as going down on Elaine.
Right.
Yeah, because he did quote everything.
Were they worried about... So we know the story's about... No, not at all?
No.
The network didn't say anything?
Nothing. At that point, I think after Chinese Restaurant, they were not going to disagree with Larry David or Jerry Seinfeld on any plot point.
Jerry told me a story about, the network gave Larry notes about maybe the pilot or the second episode. And Larry's response was to sit there very calmly and listen to the notes, and then said, "Here is my response to you. Nothing! Not one note!" I think they were afraid. To give him a note.
Right.
Well, but the brilliant thing about it, I wish I had done this on shows I worked on, when you say, "I can't do that," hire a guy who can do that, because then it puts it back on them.
Yeah.
You're actually not being mean and saying, "I think your note sucks." You're saying, "I can't do that. That's not what I hire somebody who can do that. I'm leaving." And then what? Then
well, that's what Larry did. He left.
That's no answer. I mean, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Were you ever there with a note meeting in the beginning or no?
No, they always gave notes, but they were never really like, "You can't do this storyline." I mean, they always did have notes.
Yeah.
But wait a minute, I want to backtrack because I think I interrupted you, Jason. You were saying you tell when you do your corporate things.
I always do that stuff, but it's something like an event like this where it's not about me. I'm there to serve that thing.
Yes.
I don't want to drag it back to here's something you probably want to know about me and my career. I try and keep it as much as I can in their thing.
Yes.
So, it's just a different mandate. But I listen, another question I get all the time is, are you sick about talking about Seinfeld? And honestly, it's not performative. It's Peter's heard me tell this story 1,000 times. My mom used to say to me, what would be a good life? I hope you live a life of service to other people. And I'd go, well, not going to happen, Mom, because I'm an actor, and it's really the most selfish thing in the world.
Yes.
I do it because I seem to be okay at it. They pay me, I get jobs, and it's, and I thought, I'm never going to do that thing my mother wanted me to do. This has been true of, I found it's been true of a bunch of things I've been lucky enough to do, but nothing more than our show.
Yes.
I meet people still every week, or I get letters every week that say, I was going through dark stuff. And I had lost certainly my sense of joy, my sense of humanity, and I would watch your shows back to back to back, and I would find the laughter again, and you got me through. Thank you for getting me through. And I would look up at the sky and go, I guess I got the service, Mom.
Yes,
I guess I got
absolutely.
there. And so, having never expected that I would be part of something doing what I do, that would be so much more than what it was. Not just a TV show. It is something that really affects people and has for a long time. And I just go, I'm going to be grateful for that for the rest of my life. And if you care enough to tell me about it, I care enough to chat with you about it. So,
that's great. I mean, we were part of a legendary show. How many people can say that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's such an honor.
And we started today a little bit before we started recording about Peter kvelling about you and Hacks, and I got to tell you, it's glorious. I mean, you continue to work on stuff that is so good. It's just so
Thank you.
good. I hope you're having the time of your life because the work is beautiful.
Thank you. I really am. And I feel lucky every day that I get to do what I do because, these shows affect people. They really do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you got a lot what I got during COVID. People said during COVID, Seinfeld saved me.
Yeah.
I was watching, I don't know how many episodes, and it is, of service to people. It makes them happy.
It's restorative.
And how great that we were part of that. And still a part of it because it's on reruns every 3 seconds, thank God. And just to be a part of it is such a joy.
So watch How I Marry Seinfeld and your book. You
Okay,
ready?
yes.
Wayne
Waiting.
Knight tells, I wish he was here because he tells the greatest story. I will only butcher it, but it is the greatest cross-section between if someone had your book as a template
Yes.
and it still didn't work. So he had an aunt that he barely knew who passed away years ago in Las Vegas. Wayne happened to be in Las Vegas. His mother called and said, "You're the only member of the family anywhere near. You got to go. Go to the funeral. Go to the funeral. Go comfort your uncle, who he barely knew." He goes. He sat with the uncle, and the person doing the eulogy was unknown to all of them. And they said, "I'm going to spend some time with your uncle to get some information about your aunt, so I can personalize the eulogy." Wayne said he is sitting in what is almost like the Elvis Chapel in Vegas. It's just a horrible little space. The aunt is laid out in the box up front. It's Wayne, some other guy, the uncle, and I think a paid witness to be in the and the guy with the eulogy. And he said, the guy who had the Mad Lib version of your book, and the theme was, but an end to all that. But it was things like what the uncle, who I'm sure had dementia at this point, showed him. So it was things like, Rose enjoyed chocolate, but an end to all that. Towards the end, her medications caused her some flatulence, and she found that embarrassing. But an end to all that.
Needed the book.
He's got the right template.
Yes.
He just doesn't have the stuff to put into the slots.
I didn't get to tell my famous Seinfeld story with you.
Tell.
Okay.
Oh, we're out of time. I'm kidding.
Okay. The Kiss Hello. So I was in it as an actor. I played Wendy Malick's assistant. And you come to the delicate genius of Wendy Malick. And then I tell you that you have to pay. We required 24 hours notice for all cancellations. And you had to write a check on the set and hand it to me. Jason, Peter, would write the most expletive-filled, funniest things on this check with the express purpose of cracking me up. And I had to really keep my actor hat on because everything he wrote, every check was funnier than the next. So, Jason, I remember that from that
Carol,
episode, that
bless
you would try to crack me up, and it was all I could do not to. So,
And those checks are on eBay right now if you go look.
I should have saved them.
The book is available. Hacks is coming
By
back.
the way, but I'm going to final little anecdote.
Yeah.
Do you remember, were you with us when the crew used to do funny things on the menu board at the back of the diner?
No.
And so they would put very obscene things up
Really?
there. And somebody with a big TV freeze framed it, and there was trouble in paradise.
Really?
We
Oh, my
paid
God.
my memory is we had to pay all kinds of fines
Really?
because we had things on the
FCC?
menu
That
board.
would offend.
Oh, they were offensive.
And was that so that when you're doing your lines,
And if it
just out of
offends the
eye,
crew-
I mean, it was so in the upstage part
but
of the
line
set.
of sight that you would.
If you were, you know how sometimes the booth we would have would be all the way to the front. So if it's all the way to the front and you're shooting the master, you can see that thing way in the back. You can't read it
okay.
unless you blow it up to, IMAX size,
my
but somebody
God.
did it.
I did not know that.
Oh my God, yeah.
Great story.
Now people are going to be searching again
Yeah.
and being offended again.
Yeah.
Last quote before you go. Frank Sinatra said, "You're one funny broad," right?
He did.
Isn't that an amazing, biggest
did.
compliment ever? There you go. Look at that.
Biggest compliment ever.
One funny
He
broad.
also said some cryptic things when I opened for him and I came out. Like, Carol Leifer, she'll knock you over for the phone. She's big.
What? What?
Yeah. I know. I had no idea what that meant, but it
Knock
was
you
thank you,
over
Mr.
for the
Sinatra.
phone.
She'll
thank
knock you
you,
over
Frank.
for the phone.
Wow. All right, that kind of ruined the other thing, but that's okay.
Hey, funny broad, I'll take
Funny
any
broad.
and every time.
Hacks Kills, what an amazing show. Emotional, funny, and Gene Smart is just brilliant. So,
Anything else other than the book that we should be looking for that we don't know about?
Well, a date specific. I'll be opening for Paul Reiser at the Comedy and Magic Club. Check your local listings.
16, I believe.
April
Yeah,
17th.
we'll make sure this airs
17th.
before.
Yeah. And buy the book. I mean, I'm so thrilled. It's already #1 on public
It's
speaking.
fantastic.
By the way,
Yes.
you'll kill at your next funeral.
I do very
an
well
end
at
to
what
all
we
that.
like to call celebrations of life.
Celebration. But there's an end to that. What is it? What's the line?
But an end.
But an end to all that.
Your next book. By the way,
That's
great book
hysterical.
titles. Tell your other book title.
How to succeed in business without really crying.
And the other one, as far as
Women. When you lie about your age, the terrorists win.
and I'm still laughing at
Get those two, people.
still laughing at the restaurant,
Good.
the ugly people. And you said,
I said, what happened here?
"Thank you, Carol Leifer."
Oh, thank you guys. It was fun.
Oh my God! Right?
Thank you, everybody. This has been really
What happened?
no really and Serenity Now.